So we've talked a little bit about the why, how we built Pegasus ticketing, why we designed this system the way we did, why we built it for the audience that hopefully is watching today. Now I want to talk about design. Design is something that is fundamental to making these systems the way they should be. We have Jeb Stewart here. He's our CTO and has a myriad of experience in technical design, software design, programming, you name it, he's done it. I want to hear from you, and I'm sure our users do too, some of the design decisions that you made, why you built the system you did, and how it benefits them. So why don't we start with just an overall overview of how you built Pegasus ticketing? What did you take into account? General outline.
I think in order to tell that story, I need to start with how long we spent planning this project. Because at the end of the day, a system like that is wholly contingent on how you design the architecture to allow you to solve the problems you're setting out to solve. And I know that's kind of a lot that says nothing, but at the end of the day, we spent months doing nothing but like designing our databases, like figuring out how to normalize things, how to make sure that there's no redundancies in our data, that our interactions with the data are fundamentally sound. We wanted to adhere to really strong like programming principles that are tried, tested, proven, and more importantly, auditable and provable that they are what they say they are. So that led us to design the architecture we did, which centers around this idea of one source of truth. So this is a problem that Oren and I have both encountered so many times to the point that it'll just make your head spin. And it is different systems that disagree with each other. And I mean, we're talking the accounting says one thing, your POS says another thing, your payment platform that you go check the orders against that and they don't match like what your other systems are saying. And at a certain point, it almost turns into this he said, she said sort of scenario where which one's the correct one? How do you prove that any one of them is correct? And so taking that into consideration and knowing the kind of ripple effect that has on a business and their ability to function, we said, what do we do to eliminate that as a possibility?
And the other piece of those systems that Jeb's discussing, they all cost money. They all cost a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And how useless is it to have systems that cost a measurable amount of money taking data that is not accurate and spitting it out across 5 different dashboards, 5 different reports, when none of them are actually telling the full story? That was one of the biggest things that we had run into when we were in the design phase of this project, was cutting out that noise and actually giving you the correct data in one place. I'll let you get right back to it.
Yeah. No, but that's a fantastic point. So with this kind of like centralized idea of a single source of truth, we wanted to like create a singular location that everything else was audited against. And so everything is built around this like data source first methodology where everything interacts with the database first, and then everything else is immediately checked against other systems. So if you make a payment transaction, it goes into your database, the payment goes through, and those two are immediately compared. And what that does is allow us to ensure that everything up front matches. But then when we get to the end point where it's like, okay, we've got hundreds of millions of rows worth of data across these different systems, well, now we can very easily just compare them. We can write an audit that just says, hey, does my total sales from the month match my sales platform, like my accounting? Like, do those numbers match up? No. Okay, well, I've got the receipts in the entire logging system to show exactly where that diverged. Now, it's hard to even get to the point where they diverge because you're checking them like in that moment, but technology is fallible. Like, it's not about sometimes building the most perfect system. It's about how your system recovers from failure. So that person is making a ticket call and they lose internet halfway through the order capture. How do you reconcile that with your system in a way that, one, doesn't charge your customer unfairly, you can rectify it quickly, and you can ultimately still capture that sale in a way that everybody is fine and it's completely forgotten about 5 minutes later. So that's the kind of core principle upon which we designed this, and then everything else just kind of organically grew from there.
So a focus on data accuracy, a focus on simplicity from a technology perspective to make sure that we do the best we can avoid technology being valuable, and an emphasis on making sure that our end users, the businesses that we serve, have one clear, consistent stream of business insight to use in their reporting, in their executive reports and board reports, you name it, all in one place. Talk to me about the design. We spent months planning. He's not kidding. We spent genuinely months sitting around, looking at industry partners, looking at what we were dealing with and coming up with solutions, not more fancy ways around them, clear-cut solutions. Tell me about how you actually built it out.
So we basically compiled a list of all those problems. And then as we built this data system, we were able to basically identify like, okay, if it's structured in this way, how does this solve this problem? And so we spent a lot of time, like probably an inordinate amount of time, creating that data model where our data represents reality as close as possible in an auditable way. And I know I keep hammering that, but that integrity is what allows you to have instantaneous answers. That's what allows you to have a dashboard that isn't a like, oh, well, we had to send it through this pipeline to get cleaned up, to get reconciled, and so you get a report once a month. With these systems, if you take the time to design them around the idea that they serve multiple purposes, you should be able to just look at it at any point and know instantly what the state of things are. And that's exactly what we did when we built it. And so it's that simplicity of model it accurately on reality. And what we ended up finding with going through a lot of these problems is like, we didn't set out to build a POS that also does promotion management and product management and reporting dashboards and stuff like that. We really did just start of like, how do we answer a few basic questions in the process of creating this intuitive ticket platform? Those other problems just kind of got solved by having an intuitive data model. And so then we just kind of built out the rest of the features based on that. And we're able to kind of create this cohesive thing. And it's so wild that like this discovery seems so intuitive in hindsight, but is so uncommon to see in actual business practice where, yeah, you've got your sales system in one silo, you've got your accounting system in another silo, and like trying to get those two things to talk to each other. Oh my gosh. It's like speaking different languages. Like you're just not going to get there.
And what we found so surprising in this whole process was the fundamental things that we built this POS ticketing system on are table stakes. They are just accurately processing, managing, and handling all critical POS system functions in terms of ordering tickets, redeeming tickets, making sure your data's, in an actionable, accurate state, and everything in between. These are table stakes for a business to be actually able to use their ticketing data for analysis, their ticketing data for forecasting, their ticketing data for business insight, for making decisions, for making sure people are on the right page. Table stakes that were not being met by current industry offerings that we'd worked with quite a bit. So while we covered, again, the fundamental pieces of a POS system, making sure we created solutions, not more problems for you and your team, we also added some pretty cool features that were able to differentiate the process for businesses like yours, customers like yours, to again, give you that exponential value experience with Pegasus ticketing. You want to talk through some of the cool features that you built into this?
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny because you asked that. And what I consider a cool feature is, and what other people do sometimes don't align. But I think in this case, that's not the case. And one of those things is understanding your customer. This is one of the most, like, I think everybody throws this around. They're like, I want to understand who's buying my product. I want to know who I need to reach out to, who would be a good fit for my product, for my attraction, for my event, whatever. And it's so hard to do. And there are agencies and industries out there that make billions of dollars on collecting a lot of like really sensitive PII data scraped off your phone, and then they aggregate it and create these frankly invasive reporting systems that, yeah, you'll kind of learn your customer, but it's through 14 or 15 filters of statistical analysis and assumptive making. For something where you have the customer's information right there, you know who bought it because they put in their name, they put in their contact info. Shouldn't you just be able to kind of know things about them without all of that abstraction? And that's what we do. We have that customer database that is connected to all your orders, and we can pull that together into understanding who actually you are serving, who are you reaching out to, who is your biggest impactful audience. And we can do it in such a rapid fire, consistent way where you truly can understand your audience. And it's one of those things you kind of have to just see it to believe it, because everybody's making this claim. But we've worked with enough of these systems, and we were able to cut a lot of the overhead out in such a way that just gives you the most straightforward, actionable answers possible.
We're not a fan of buzzwords here. They're buzzy and they go away quickly.
Yeah.
The POS system, while of course it has those critical functions, understanding your customer is something that we've worked on for years. We've worked in the data science field. We've worked on building out advanced segmentations. We've gotten really good at finding the best ways to make these things accurately and efficiently in terms of time. And that's something that we've been able to plug right into the Pegasus ecosystem, which for you as a customer, as a business, understanding your key audience, understanding who you should be talking to, sending media to, spending your time growing that audience is extremely impactful for your bottom line and for ease of use when it comes to marketing. Another piece that I absolutely love, and this goes back to when I was a data analyst, is reporting. No one likes reporting. Reporting is typically time consuming. It's typically, there's quite a few data sources you have to wrangle. There's a lot that goes into the reporting piece of this. Our goal with Pegasus was to eliminate that entire reporting aspect that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. What we did was build this beautiful, simplistic, executive summary business analysis dashboard. It takes all of your data, puts it simply in one easy-to-read dashboard with real-time, up-to-date data and a few intuitive looks at how your tickets are performing, how different products are performing, your key persona segments you should be looking at, your historical performance over time, giving you and your team an upfront, accurate look at your business performance without the need for external softwares, without the need to run it through a secondary system, error checking it before you actually present it to the board, all wrapped up in a beautiful dashboard with easy to download Excel files right there for you.
It's kind of incredible because we've gone through, both us and our teams have gone through, probably thousands of dashboards.
Oh, at this point, yeah.
Yeah, it's truly an unfathomable amount of information. And you stare at these enough times and you kind of start to spot patterns in terms of useful, useless. And I say useless kind of cavalierly, but it's like, does this answer my question, or does this just open up more questions or send me down a potentially useless rabbit hole? And we're all trying to just answer the same questions. How much money's coming in? Like literally, what do I have to work with? What is the raw material, the gasoline in my gas tank? How much of that do I have? Who are my clients? Who are my customers? Like who do I serve, and who do I want to continue to serve, and who do I want to go after? These very, very straightforward questions are so difficult to answer, and then you get into the finances. Now, at a high level, we've emphasized simplicity. Like we truly have gone through thousands and identified what works and what doesn't, and distilled the best, the most valuable, immediate impact stuff to that single dashboard. But we recognize that especially once table stakes have been met and your foundation has been laid, well, you don't build just a foundation on a house, you build on that foundation. And so we created the system to be able to export all the raw data from these reports. And in doing so, now if you have an internal analytics team, you can hand them this data. You're getting the high level, the low hanging fruit, that's all taken care of. Now your team is working on digging into the really impactful stuff, the stuff that is industry specific, business specific, that is proprietary knowledge to you, that you are able to focus on the high impact, high value problems, rather than like, why every company is having to deal with these same things over and over. Just how much money am I making? How many tickets do I sell? And that shouldn't take 1 second of your time. And we made sure it didn't.
And I think, again, that ties back to everything that we have built with Pegasus. It is simple. It is efficient. That does not mean that it cannot be used for extremely complex analyses. It means that we have taken the time and the care to fundamentally build a POS system that is accurate, sound, and reliable, that provides a great baseline for your reporting to start off of. And then if you need to go further, if you've got a dedicated analytics team that really wants to dig into those inputs, go for it. You own the data. You have access to pull CSV files. We have scheduled report features coming in the future. That is all up to you and your team, but we will get you everything that you need to take it to the next level. And in some cases, we can even help you with customized reports, customized views, etc. It's one of the pieces that's near and dear to my heart again, because I've worked with this data. I've been in the place of your analytics team saying, this doesn't make sense. And it's tough to get answers to our board. It's tough to make business decisions in a rapid fire segment. And we have significantly shortened that time, made it more efficient, and allowed you to really execute on the data that you have at hand. Now, another thing that I did as an analyst was I oversaw media campaigns, the kickoff, the optimization, and the completion of successful media campaigns. And one thing that we ran into consistently was kickoff is hard. It is tough to get everything you need in one place. It's tough to get all the lines to add up correctly and hit that date, that kickoff date, without any issues. So something that Jeb and his team built into Pegasus ticketing was the ability to activate your media on the customer segmentations or personas built right into your dashboard and essentially take your media live with the click of a button with hyper-focused customer targeting. And I'll let Jeb kind of talk us through a little bit more of that quickly.
Yeah, so just again, trying to save time, cut down on as much work as possible, especially when that work is very repetitive and ultimately doesn't add a lot of value with the actual time spent. The impact of a media campaign is undeniable, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to be waiting weeks, months to be able to activate on this stuff. And you also want it to be very deliberate. We are always talking about how you can reach for everybody, but your ROI on that's going to be terrible. You're going to throw a bunch of money into the wind, and a few dollars will come back to you, but it's not going to be terribly impactful. And so, being hyper conscientious of how media budget is spent, these personas, it's not enough to just know who your customer is. You need to be able to do something with that knowledge. So we wanted to knock the barrier down even further through this media activation component of it, where we've already figured out who your customers are. We've bucketed them using sophisticated data science clustering techniques to identify like groups. And we're able to pass those directly in with our media partner to activate on them directly. So now, let's say you've got a 100K media budget and your original plan was to target people. Well, now your plan can be to target people between the ages of 25 and 27 with at least 2 kids who make above a 70K income of a house in this region of the country with this zip code. I mean, we're talking that level of granularity where you've already determined that this is your target audience, that we know that they are consistently coming to the zoo. Let's tap into all the areas that have people like that and get them there.
And I have to harp on this piece. You do not have to build that. That is not your team going through and building out this segmentation model or trying to figure out how it works or trying to work on the activation. We do that for you on the back end. We have that beautiful infrastructure that Jeb and his team built that makes sure your data is accurate and intuitive in terms of its ability to be analyzed. And our persona segmentation models are run in the background. They're already pre-built. They call out your most important segments and the key features about people in that segment. In media, we typically call, just spreading media into the wind, the shotgun approach. Let's just see what sticks. Let's shoot this big cloud of media out into the digital universe and see who we hit. What we're allowing you to do here is take away that shotgun approach, take away that wasted ad budget, narrow it down to your most effective, most cost positive key audiences, and hone in on them with the click of a button.